Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We don't have a huge group, but we certainly got a lively group. We're going to I guess we'll begin. You can unmute yourself anytime you'd like to speak, or if you have anything you'd like to say, that's for sure. I wanted to begin today's session with talking just a moment about the Pro Convention. Got some great news with that this year during the Pro Convention, I think I have the link up, that we just got added a seventh session, and it's going to be a dinner session roundtable. So everybody there that wants to come and be part of the dinner session, there's going to be yet one more free dinner added to your $175. So tremendous value for all those that show up, and for those that have shown up in the past. You certainly walk away with not only a great deal of knowledge, but a great deal of swag and everything else. If you don't remember what our sixth session plus the one, we're going to have environmental phase one, performing fire door inspections, what to do in the first 5 steps of building a commercial inspection business, building a multi-inspector firm, performing multi-family inspections, and then we're bringing in FLIR to specifically talk about commercial inspections using IR. So it's a little different than any IR class that you've had, because this one's actually going to be done by FLIR and their training arm, which is I believe they're called infrared training.
I don't know what happened. It was just.
And so it should be a really good class. They do offer an online session for any of those that are interested, that is strictly about doing IR inspections for commercial electric. I took that many years ago and instantly employed that in doing commercial IR work, because most large institutions are required to infrared inspect all of their panels annually. So that's a good revenue stream. Anybody have anything they'd like to bring up this morning? It's an even quieter group than when I was muted.
Rob, I have a question, and this may be too deep and not the forum, but I had a commercial realtor call me last week, and he is building a building in an older downtown area where the buildings around him are, maybe 60 to 100 years old. And his question was, how do you deal with building your building up to code and the old buildings not having, had any code, or, having the wiring from when they were built? And the reason he brought it up was they had one building down there burned down a couple of months ago, and his investors are scared of investing. And so he called me as a commercial inspector and said, what do you recommend? And so I just thought I'd throw that out. Has anybody dealt with that? What do I like? I mean, obviously I don't have the answer, but he's not responsible for the code of the buildings around him, but it does throw some fear when you're trying to build new with old. Have you run into that?
Well, that happens in a lot of the inner cities whenever we do remodeling, not remodeling necessarily, but rebuilding and building up the infrastructure. And I guess when you stand back and look at the good news is that's certainly going to create a better buzz for his building, especially if it's in a very desirable area of your city, because people like to be drawn to, I don't know, the nostalgia, the old infrastructure stuff, but yet have all the modern appurtenances. And that kind of goes with why we're seeing office space tanking so much, is because they're so outdated on the interiors that the infrastructure is better sitting at home in your in your living room working on your couch than it is going to the office. And so I think if anything, Curtis, is going to be a great thing for your client's building, because where every other building is going to plateau or head down, they're going to be probably growing for the next 25 to 30 years if they built the building right.
Right. So basically, again, I was kind of happy that he called me to ask, as looking to me as an expert in that regard, which I was, I had no clue. But
yeah,
so basically just tell him build up the positives of his building over the older buildings around him.
100%. What kind of building, what building use is it going to be?
I think it's going to be mixed retail, but mostly I think the anchor is going to be a bank, and then probably a lot of retail floors outside of that.
Yeah. I mean, I would think as long as the neighborhood is a good, safe neighborhood, I think it's going to blow everybody. I think he's going to stand back and blow everybody else out of the water.
Yeah, that's what he's hoping. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would lean towards, if I was looking for a lease space, I'd lean towards the modern versus the old nostalgia. But I like looking at the nostalgia. I just don't think I want to smell it and deal with it on a daily basis.
Right. So basically, his big fear is he can have no responsibility for the buildings around him, just his own.
Yeah. 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 Or his other fear would be is I'd be curious or as an inspector, if you get called into the job, I think I would be very cognizant of firewalls, especially if I got buildings that are contiguous next to each other. I think firewalls or neighborhood security would be far greater of a concern to me than it would be that I overbuilt my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's an interesting dynamic. We just had a member call me last week with a not dissimilar question, but it was the first time I've heard of doing building load percentage analysis. And what that was is since everybody's going to shared space these days, he was asked by his client to go to the property and calculate his percentage of building that he's renting versus the percentage of the building that others are renting. So that includes his lobby space, his hall space, and all those, because that was going to be part of his loan analysis, and he wanted an accurate number. And I'm like, wow, what a cool niche to go out there and have to do some calculations for.
So is he counting like number of people,
Not the
size
people,
of his space?
not the people. It was actual square footage of usable square footage in his unit. So he had to exclude any square footage that was HVAC ductwork, or did the water cooler or water fountain take up square footage? How much was the countertop? But how much was free square footage that he was actually able to use? It was a neat exercise, but a valuable exercise for his client, that's for sure.
Yeah. But it didn't impact how many people were. I mean, if he had one person in a 3,000 foot office or 300.
Well, it wasn't necessarily impacting for the people analysis. It was all impacting for his rent per square foot analysis.
Okay. So it really didn't matter how many times he used the elevator a day or walked through the lobby.
Yeah, exactly. It was just an interesting, because he called me up and said, "Rob, have you ever heard of it?" And I had to Google it too. And but it was a viable revenue stream for him that he thinks he can repeat again and again.
That's very cool.
Kind of shows you how diverse the world of commercial inspections can actually be. Anybody else have anything today? Larry. Or Harry, I mean.
I'm Harry Hacker with HPI Enterprises. We're out of North Carolina. Back to that question about usable space. That had to get quite involved if you're talking about taking out water cooler space and
Yeah.
countertop space. That had to get quite involved.
Yeah, he walked it with the wheel, and he used a tape measure, and then you do the whole thing, and then you just start subtracting after that. So it's at least that's the logical way to do it. Is you figure out the whole box, and then you just take off the box what you don't need, and then you can come up with a number. He didn't seem like it took him that much effort or time versus it's just math.
Okay.
Everybody's quiet this morning. Anybody have any neat, interesting projects this month that they want to share? No, Harry?
Well, I did a small project for a property management. That's basically a strip mall. The hair salon complained that the restaurant next door stunk the place up with the fried foods and everything like that. And they had building enforcement out there. They had and everything was up to code, both in the salon and in the restaurant. But when I went out there, I had Googled did a Google map picture of the roof, and you could almost guess what the problem was. The vent for the kitchen was about 15 feet away from the intake for the HVAC for the salon. So every time they were cooking fried food, the HVAC with an economizer, mind you, was sucking in fresh air right from the roof. So sucking in that, and I gave him my opinion on the matter, and suggested that they raise the stack up for the ventilation for the fried food to get that smell up in the air farther.
For those that don't do commercial kitchens very often, or might not be familiar with packaged units, what's the proper clearance supposed to be for the air intake?
Is it 10 feet?
10 feet.
10 feet. 10 feet. So where there's a great example there, if it's 11 or 12 foot, that even 10 foot in the ideal world might not be enough, depending on what's being emitted from that hood. So yeah, that's a great observation. That's awesome. I was in yet another tour last week. I got the opportunity to teach an introduction to commercial inspections course in Illinois, up in Chicagoland area. And this session we were at a VFW. And during our mock inspection on Friday afternoon, we walked the building. And as we're walking through the interior, we found several of the sprinkler heads missing escutcheon plates, which is the trim ring that mounts the sprinkler head to the ceiling tiles in the grid. And we're like, well, that's an issue. And then when we got down into the lower level, into the basement, and we looked at the riser, that's not even connected. It didn't even have plumbing to it. So I guess the escutcheons were not the biggest issue with the sprinkler system. It was the fact it was never fully plumbed in. So I guess we can take that for granted that, it's got a sprinkler system. And even if you can't get to that vault room, you got to try, because if we would omitted that vault room because of the assumption that, oh, you've got a sprinkler system, there's there's that room, try to get in it, because it didn't have a lick of plumbing. And I would probably think there's probably $5,000 or $10,000 worth of plumbing left to finish to get that riser up to snuff and inspected. So every day there's something fun to look at on these inspections, that's for sure.
Rob, I have a question. Have you ever done a phase inspection on commercial?
I have never been called for one. Probably 3 or 4 times a month, Curtis, I get asked by a member about them. And basically, for those that get asked for it, just ask the client which phases they want you to be at, and charge for your time. You know, they can be fairly involved because of what's going on, but in commercial inspections, unlike residential inspections, commercial inspections are pretty well inspected by the authorities having jurisdiction. In residential, we know they blow them off. You know, that inspector might have 30 permits they've got to look at today, and they might only look at 3 of those properties. Where in a commercial, they'll look at every one. But you will find things. I mean, especially if you're there to help your client make sure that the specs and the prints are being built to what they're paying for. That's probably the most important thing. You know, did they install the proper light fixture that's on the plans, or did they sub out a substitute fixture that looks like it? But I can see value in it. I just in all the years I inspected, never got a phone call for one. Maybe it's because I was in the big city and in Chicago, and there's just so much going on that nobody had time to wait for me.
And probably your city was more on the ball than a smaller town.
Yeah, maybe certainly not the city of Chicago, but certainly the 105 or 130 some more, suburbs. I mean, they're right on those commercial buildings. You can't switch a trade out of those buildings without having it just thoroughly in-depth inspected. It really is almost arduous, the level of inspections they go through on commercial buildings.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I've only done one of these, and the owner was more concerned with, as you mentioned, the materials, saying are they there or not, whether they've been installed or not, because the contractor is slow to move on things. Although the permits, we check the permits as we go along, and then a report just telling them, here's where we're at with the permitting. If you had a question, you call the permit office and say, hey, has there been a delay on your side or our side? Kind of working out some of those for a like a distant client who's away from the property. It's really pretty simple. Usually the construction site is clean and the permits are up, everything's being done. You're pretty much looking around to see what has to be ordered or what's been sitting around since the last time you were there. So it's good money. Like I said, for not that much work, depending on the detail and the scope of work you set out with the client.
That's a good point, Larry. I mean, you could be doing phase inspections, and all you are is the check and balance between the client and the contractor they hired. Maybe it's, I can think of engineering projects I used to do when I was younger, where I would be the engineer in between the governmental body and the contractor, just oversight of the contractor doing all the work, just to make sure that they had the best interest always going to the governmental body. So you could be the same thing, only the best interest of the person building that property. So yeah, it could be excellent work.
Yeah, because I'm not a code inspector. I do not portray myself that in any way. I simply say, here's what I can do for you. In this case, it was pretty simple because the scope of work was clear as far as what he expected me and what I could do, don't get yourself in any legal problems.
Yep. Yep. That's the key. Have a good proposal and a good clear expectation of what you're going to provide in that phase inspection.
Yeah,
But charge for your time.
absolutely. Travel and everything, so it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a question. When you guys talk about phase inspections, right? You're talking about the GC and the owner on a project, correct?
Should be. Yes. 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 So you're going out there. I have done phase inspections on residential side where I might be making either weekly visits or I might be making visits whenever they're switching between rough frame and HVAC install, or when the plumbing's done, or when the electric's done. When each phase of the project is done, then that's when we would show up, do a quick inspection, let the client know where they're at, and then that allows that client to release money. At the end of the day, it's so the client can release the money and pay the GC for the work they just completed.
Okay, I understand. So pretty much on where I'm from, my background is the more heavy industrial. So that's pretty much your commissioning agent for smaller jobs, like the middle market kind of jobs, like strip malls and that kind of thing. Okay. So how would you market that on your website, or marketing that to a property manager?
Larry, how did you get your work?
So I just got contacted by the owner looking for someone to just do that. I said, well, I'm just looking for someone to follow up on the contractor. He was actually, so I'm a couple hours away from the site, and he's just looking for somebody to go and make a, eyes on and take a few pictures to kind of show the progress, so that as he was talking to the general contractor, I was kind of his intermediary, like I said, contractor officer representative, to kind of say, yeah, he's done that, or yes, the materials that you paid for last month are on site. In one case, he is trying to charge for doors that were sitting in a back room that had not been installed. So I said, well, the doors are here. Here's pictures of it. They just haven't been installed for a month. So you're kind of just giving them, making sure the BS meter is being checked on things like that. And then other things, they had ordered flooring. Well, all the flooring's sitting there, but they couldn't put the flooring down because the flat work hadn't been finished. So things like that, you kind of explain, why things are a certain way or why things haven't progressed to the next phase, and which things may have jumped ahead because maybe a contractor was able to come in and do the work sooner than what they had planned. So finding these people, talking to the real estate folks, it's really it's not something I've really focused on, but I'll put it on a website for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say put it on the website as a list of offerings, and then write a blog or two about it and put it on your website. So now you've got some SEO and some keywords built around it. But if you do a general search on commercial phase inspections, you might even find some brokerage houses that are out there that parcel out that work. It's certainly nothing that I would want to bank my my business growth on, but to be versed at it and ready to go, I think is an awesome way to have some dexterity in the marketplace, because you never want to turn something down because you were afraid of it. When a work like this is not hard work, it's just more methodical. As Larry was saying, he caught the fact that the doors were on site, but they weren't installed yet. Well, you're just there to make sure that you understand what your exact scope and needs are. But the key is whatever you put on your website as far as an offering. Let's say you made a list of of 10 or 15 things. I do phase inspections, I'll do roof inspections, I'll do core inspections, whatever it is, then follow that up with a blog or some article you write somewhere in your website about those, because then that links the two stories together, and then that makes your website a partial authority on that topic. And then that's during the organic searches, which doesn't cost you any money, a way for the client to identify you, locate you, and know that you are an authority on whatever you're doing. Don't just write, I do commercial office space inspections. Then write something about office space inspections, or put a list of the projects you've done before with a one sentence, beautiful office space inspected this week, or found this in this office space, because then those co-link back and forth, and that makes the web searches very happy, and will help you find the work, or the work finds you, I should say.
This is something that you just touched on a little bit. Maybe others can give some their feedback. It's been really, for me, it's been very slow. Where's your best sources of referrals and so forth in your areas? What have you been seeing being successful as far as your time? And
Yeah, anybody want to help? Dave, what's the percentage of work that you do that's realtor referral versus client direct contact? Do you have that number?
So for here in Chicago, it's really not that much. For realtors, maybe like 25% if I had to check. So it's usually just people who see us at an inspection, they like the way we work, they get our cards and contact info. It doesn't always turn into a job, but that's maybe like a quarter of our stuff. I'd say the other 75% is mostly online. It's just searching our website, searching, Google is where a lot of people find us.
Yeah. I mean, that's been that way for 6 or 7 years. I built our entire practice on 100% going after clients and not realtor referrals, because right now the clients are the ones searching, not the realtors, and to work back, and then work backwards from there and try to get the referrals on the backside from the next job. But I really think that's the best way to go about this, and especially if you're a little on the slow side, then blog, then increase your website presence. Make sure you're properly listed. When was the last time you looked at your Google My Business page? If you haven't, make sure it says commercial in that gray box, because that's what Google uses to find you. If your Google My business listing says you're a certified master inspector, well, that's residential. It should say commercial property inspector or commercial inspector in the business listing, because that's what Google uses as their algorithm for getting the organic searches. We've got some articles on our website that will help you with that. Both Google My Business, SEO, keywords, all those things that you can do that doesn't cost money. I think you can build a very successful commercial website and not invest in it other than your time. You don't have to do pay-per-click. You can, if you're feeling like your market's a little slow, and if you did pay-per-click for a few months, that might give you a boost, but that costs money, and I don't like spending money.
neither do I.
Yeah. We in our introduction class that we do on the Wednesday morning, we spend some time going through some websites and showing, just a twist of a word if you have the word "and" in your Google My Business, let's say you say commercial and residential inspections. Many times Google looks at that as a firewall. And that means when they search, they have to go commercial and residential instead of commercial, comma, residential. And so there's a whole science to that. Maybe if you're really having troubles, maybe you got to hire a fifth grader. That knows this stuff, unfortunately, to burn through. But anybody else? I mean, what's anybody else's percentages? Jeff, you guys been around for a while. What's your percentage between direct client contact and realtor referrals on commercial?
Probably 80%.
Yeah. We're in such the infancy of this industry that the realtors don't really recognize us or appreciate us yet. Versus on the residential side, where it's 95% realtor referral and 10 or 5% client search. And so I think we've got a great chance to flip this switch and keep the realtors out of our referral base for probably another decade or more if we play our cards right.
I know in South Carolina, I've had a lot of realtors come up to me and say, we didn't know you guys do commercial inspections because there's not a lot out here in South Carolina that do commercial.
Yep.
So, because you're limited to 3 things. So that's why we have some realtors that are calling us. We have our own sales team here that go out and try to get us work too.
Yep. You're absolutely right. And in South Carolina is one of the anomalies in our country that says you have to be a licensed general contractor to be able to perform commercial inspections. But even beyond that, the realtors still do not know or appreciate the wonderful service we provide. So regardless of whether or not you have that legislation, we still get a chance to go out there and build this whole new market sector on our knowledge base and not on some lucky draw from a realtor.
Yep. So I don't know if it's been said, and I was on a call. Sorry about that, but one of the things that I did to really grow my commercial side is I changed my Google listing from a residential inspector to commercial inspector. I am in the Western New York and Western Pennsylvania market, so I run basically out of Erie, PA, and I cover Pittsburgh. My phone rings 3 or 4 times a week for commercial bids. And every one of them are from a Google search because they can't find it. And that's just to me, that's like kind of a hack. And that's how marketing's even going to go on the residential side pretty soon with this new lawsuit that just got thing. So learn the digital marketing side of the things and grow your business that way too.
You're absolutely right, Kevin. In the last 2 classes I taught one in PA in Bloomsburg at the House of Horrors 3, and then I taught this last one in Chicago. Any inspector that's been in business doing residential more than 5, maybe 6 years, you're pretty much on cruise control. So either build a new website or rebrand yourself because your phone's still going to ring for residential. But make residential your passive income and make commercial be your focus. And then that allows you to have this growth pattern because your name is out there, people recognize you, but you can still grow a whole new business sector by just simply changing how the internet recognizes who you are.
You're exactly spot on with that because that's how it is. I have 2 inspectors. and my residential's on cruise control. I've actually stripped back marketing where my profit margin, my company looks really high now because I'm not spending anything, but the inspections are not stopping to coming in, and even on commercial. And the nice thing is in the commercial space, I now have inspectors in Pittsburgh who are recommending my company. I've never even met them, but they're saying, "Oh, that's the commercial guy. That's the commercial guy." And I actually am like, hey, at first I was like, no, I want residential too down here because I have an inspector there, but I'm like, nope, and it's fine,
Yeah. I'd rather work less and make more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I did a 17-acre plaza down there 2 weeks ago, and this guy hired me out of New York City and didn't bat an eye when I said $2,500 to walk around the exterior of the two buildings and walk every inch of the parking lot with him. He paid me $2,500 to do it. You don't have take your time on writing up the report. You don't have to give me anything. I'm satisfied with our walking around. Like, this was it, 6 hours of my time with this guy. And then I did write him a report. I spent 4 hours writing it. So 10 hours I really had invested into this. And, that's what they want. And it's interesting.
But that was $250 an hour.
Yeah, exactly what it was.
Yeah. And at $250 an hour, you'd probably have to do what, 4, maybe 5, maybe 4 home inspections.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't work the rest of the week.
And it's too cold in western New York to play golf yet, so you had to figure out someplace else to idle your time. But yeah, that's a good point. And on this call, if you've been in business for more than 5 years on the residential side, maybe you're getting a little burnout. You could probably find a younger or newer inspector in the marketplace that's looking to build a career. And maybe you hire them coming out of an InterNACHI school, or maybe you hire them that just freshly got licensed if you're in a licensed state. And you give them an opportunity to grow their lives, but you get to make money off of their backs. And then you get to grow a commercial at the same side. Like I say, that's how I would make residential my passive income. I had the argument, I had a question come up in this last class in Chicago from an inspector. He's been inspecting about 4 years, and he's at that precipice of his career of does he hire or not? And he's afraid of hiring because he's afraid that they'll leave him. And I said, why would they leave you? And he said, because they think they can make 100%. Does anybody on this call believe they make 100% of their revenue from an inspection? 22% goes immediately to Uncle Sam. Then you have all your other fees and insurance and marketing and everything else. So at best, you might make 50%. And let's say you pay somebody 40%. So there's 10% left. That means they're going to quit you over 10% and have to go out and market and grow a business from scratch. So that marketing and growing a business and everything else, and sales and design and headache, is got to be worth in excess of 10%, maybe 20%, maybe 30%. So if you treat somebody fairly, compensate fairly, and motivate, they'll never leave you, because they should be quite satisfied with being an awesome inspector for a great boss and a great company. So not hiring because you're afraid they're going to leave you and become competition is a very myopic view of business life. That's for sure, at least in my opinion.
I agree that the better employee you have, the more money it's going to bring in, and you're going to have enough money to pay them.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, the greatest compliment your employee can ever get is being accused of owning the company, because that means they got up for that morning and did that inspection to the utmost of their capacity and abilities. And so that's a pretty cool thing, and that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. The other thing is that to speak, more to that, what Robert, you're just saying is it's a mindset in yourself.
Yeah.
It's, I'm going to spend this time and I'm going to train somebody and then they're going to go out and do it on their own. To a mindset, that's a loss. You're looking at there's a book out there, Gap in the Gain, and you're looking at the gap. You're not saying that, wow, look at this training and this prowess and look at how everything's coming from me. It's like the NFL coaching wheel. You got the best coaches have come from 3 or 4 different coaches. They've worked inside their coaching chains, and every one of the NFL coaches can be traced back to like 3 different coaches right now in the NFL. But that's because people are, and you think those coaches are going, yeah, I don't like him anymore because he left my team. No, they're happy. That's what it is. It's gotten more into me. I really enjoy the growing of the people as well as the business, myself. That's one of the beauties of it. Once you get into that mindset, that's awesome.
What a great attitude. I Kevin, I so appreciate that attitude, because even if they do leave, there's still, let them leave, let them go out on their own, and they're still going to carry the banner of your company forever. And maybe and for those of us on this call, you can always bring them back as a 1099 to help you with commercial work, because commercial work, you don't need to have employees, because you could bring somebody in for a one-off job 50 times this year.
Yep.
And let them continue to grow on other things. So yeah, I think it's I think you're right on the money. Yeah. And you have to surrender too. Nobody's going to be as good as you.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's going to, to take the NFL, somebody throws harder, jumps higher, runs faster. And you just got to get over it and just know that this is my spot, this is my niche, and I'm going to run this business, and I'm going to have the best company in the world, and I'm going to surround myself with the best athletes.
Yep. Yeah, and that's that's what it is. And is everybody, the way I was trained or taught is you view it, you're 100%, and who can be the closest percentage to 100%? That's the person that you want to hire. That's the person that that's it. So.
Yeah, I spent the first 20 years of my career running around teaching class, and at about every seminar that would hire me, and it was entitled, on your best day you're only 80%. And the whole key is, it's all about bias. Where Kevin, if you and I did a job with Jeff and all 3 of us are there, we're going to be 80% the same. And the 20% difference between you and I and Jeff is going to be our personal bias. Maybe I'm heavy in structure, where you're heavy in HVAC and Jeff is heavy in electric. So Jeff's inspections are going to be wow on the electric, and yours going to be wow on HVAC, and I'm going to be wow on structure. But the rest of that 80%, we're exactly the same. And if you can understand that, then you can hire every day of the week. But if you think that everybody's going to find 100% of everything in every building, I can guarantee you that there's 12 people on this call that could go in the same house, and I'm going to get 12 different reports.
Yep, absolutely. And that's how it is at mine. That's one of the jobs I have. I read my guys' reports before they're posted. And it's they're my comments that were in there, but they modify them now, and they make and I've given them the permission so they're not robotic. And which is the thing, but it comes with trust. Obviously having the the team to do that, but You know, like that's it. But I trust him now, and that's what it becomes. It becomes, you know, a trust game, and you know, and that. So
Yeah, for those that don't know my history, I managed almost 100 offices at a time across the country, and I just had to surrender. You know, very simply surrender, going, you know, you're licensed, you're competent, you do your work, and I'm going to trust you did it well, because if I had to sit there and read, you know, 600 inspection reports a night, I don't have enough time for that. So it's that's the key to hiring, and that's the key to supporting. That's the key to growing somebody else's livelihood and somebody else's career. Anybody else have anything else they want to talk about today? Otherwise, we're about 10 minutes to the hour, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Yeah, I have one thing.
Yeah.
On 1099s, I like to. How does the industry think about 1099s, bringing other inspectors from other states to work? Because at least, you know, I work with big industrial companies, and most of the times they'll bring their competitor in, even though they do the same equipment, because they're not specialized on it, and they pay quotes on it. Wanted to know the mindset on inspectors with that, because I know it is competitive on the home side, but when it comes to, and you know, when you're doing industrial or bigger complexes, sometimes you have to bring in a specialist that's your competitor in.
On the commercial side, Luis, it's the easiest thing in the world to do, because you're bringing them in one project and one project only, or one group of projects and one group of projects only. On the residential side, when you tell somebody you got to show up at this time, this is what you're going to get paid, this is the shirt you have to wear and the software you have to produce, and all those mighty rules that the IRS and the government has set up, you're breaking every one of them. Plus with the direct oversight rule and all that other stuff. When on a commercial side, you could go to anybody on this call, you know, for instance, you could reach up and say, hey, Larry, I got this job on next week. Can you come in? I'm going to pay you $1,000 for your day plus your expenses. And now Larry's either going to say yes or no, but you're not going to be directly overseeing what Larry does. You told him he's going to have to go do either the whole building, or he's going to go do, you know, that portion of the building. But then your relationship is over at the end of that project. So that doesn't break any of the IRS rules. And so I think it's a very easy thing. I think for all of us that are in our markets that have projects that exceed our comfort zone, it's the easiest, best way to get the job done. And even let's go backwards for a second. When Kevin talked about how in the Pittsburgh area, he's known as the commercial guy. Well, let's say it's a monster job and I'm a residential inspector in Pittsburgh or Washington or someplace. I might call Kevin up and say, hey, Kevin, I got this job. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Can you do it? Let me come along. And Kevin's going to say, great, awesome. You know, I'll take the money. You get to get paid for your day, you know, type of thing. And it's a win-win for everybody. So on the commercial side, I don't think I'd hesitate ever not doing 1099s, but on the residential side, I don't know how you can do it. I think it's, I think between carrying the insurance and marketing for the company and all those other things, I don't see how you're able to ever have a 1099 employee on the residential side.
And I'll just chime in on that. One piece that I've actually been doing reports for one of our CCPIA colleagues out in Seattle, and I'm in North Carolina. So he sends me the photos and the notes. I'll write up the report. He's got a pretty darn good business out where he's at in Spokane, residential and commercial. But he's trying to build up the commercial work. So when he gets overloaded, he'll do the groundwork. I'll do the report. So it works out
brilliant.
I don't have to travel. he gets extra work and he spends his time on site. So it works out
Yeah.
well.
That's brilliant. You're almost a QA person for him.
Yeah, it works out well. And I work with really well with another colleague here in North Carolina. Off and on for the last several years, we've been doing that. Whether he can make the site visit or I can, just hand off and do whichever piece of the puzzle needs to be done.
That's how. Yeah, there's 101 ways to make money in this business. You just got to be able to answer your phone and say yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's what I was looking at, because I think if we want this to be competitive with more companies that they'll say, oh, I'll just go to the engineering firm, bringing expertise from other parts of the country. That's a great way to show the professionalism.
Oh, sure. Yeah, usually, but the key is if you're going to start bringing, especially, you can make sure you always have an agreement with whoever's coming out with you. Make sure that they're qualified. Make sure we have different agreements on our website that can help you with that, including making sure that the insurance is set and there's a clear expectation, as well as letting your insurance carrier know that you do use specialty consultants and subcontractors to help you with some of your work, because you want to make sure you do have coverage. Excellent. Well, in respect for your time, our next session will be on Tuesday, April 9th. So that'll be the second Tuesday of April. I'll be off the road, so that'll be perfect so I don't have to do this from a hotel room somewhere. Coming up, we do have classes in Dallas, Nashville, Tampa, and then Boulder. So if you're looking to either get yourself trained or send an employee or subordinate to be trained, we've got 4 more classes coming up yet this year in the introduction, as well as I know we've got a guided field day coming up in Phoenix, and who knows, we might add some more classes between now and October, depending on need. So if you hear anything or need anything, never hesitate to reach out to us on any of the socials or give us a call. Both Maggie, I, and Nick love hearing from you guys, because frankly, we're killing it out there. Commercial inspections are getting a lot of conversation and a lot of buzz. But I wanted to leave with one thing. We have the only published average useful life table out there in the marketplace. It's available on our website. Look at it, read it. If you see any errors or omissions or adjustments you'd love to see on it, let us know. That's a living document. It's starting to get a lot of quotes on other articles and other things across the industry. And so that's a good thing. And so we want to make sure that it's got all the line items that we need. So if you're taking a look at that document, make sure that it's exactly what you want or exactly what you need, and the numbers are just, because if it's not, we can adjust them. With that, stay safe, follow the ComStop, and I look forward to seeing you guys on April 9th.
Thank you.
See
Bye,
ya.
everybody.
Bye.